Hey everybody, it is Rob Sacchetto with another Robcast, Prevenge of the Nerd podcast. Hi, it's been a while, or at least it's been about a week and a half, I guess. Been super busy. I know everybody uses excuses like that. Oh, I've been busy. Well, where have you been? What's going on? Oh, I've been busy. I've been very busy, doing a lot of personal appearances, doing workshops, drawing zombies and stuff with students and adults and all sorts of things. So I haven't had much time or energy to do new podcasts, recently. But I want to change all that. I want to do a few more movie reviews. I'm actively trying to get a head cam so I could show you guys some inking tutorials and some drawing tutorials. So I'm really working on that. I've got a camera that I'm using, but I'm experiencing some difficulties with downloads. So once I get that sort of fixed up and worked out, I'll be posting a lot of art stuff, which I originally really wanted to do. But today, since I am in my movie room and you see all the movies behind me again, I am going to be doing a movie review. Yes, and this time it will be again another, and I hope you love these. It'll be a comparison between an original cool horror movie and a reboot or a redo or a reimagining. And today it will be Pet Sematary and Pet Sematary. And you'll notice that I'm only holding up the original. I'm not holding up the reboot. I've watched it recently. I will probably not be purchasing it, and I'll get to that in a minute. But for now, let me review the first one. Pet Sematary. It's based, of course, on a Stephen King novel. That original one came out, when was it? This one came out, I believe, in the, 89. Yeah, 89. So, yeah, 1989. And again, it features mostly, in fact, I believe all practical effects, because we didn't really have computer-generated effects back then. The closest we had to any kind of visual effects like that was like stop motion and stuff like that. But no, this was mostly all practical effects. In fact, it was all practical effects. Let me reiterate that. This movie to me is a real classic. I find it's very underrated by a lot of people and a lot of critics. I remember reading a lot of reviews on this from critics, and they really eviscerated it for some reason. And I have always loved this movie right from the get-go, and upon frequent rewatchings of it, I have always thought that it stood the test of time, that it was both a gripping horror movie and very, very emotional. Like, it packed a real emotional punch. Like, there were scenes in it that were so that really hit you in the heart. Like scenes where I mean, obviously, I am going to give you spoilers in this. The spoilers are not going to be on, I'm not going to smash you on the head with the spoilers, but I will assume that you have watched at least one of these versions by now, if not this one. So there will be spoilers. So if you want to watch the movie and then watch the rest of this review or this roundup of both movies, please do so. But I'm going to give away spoilers like right now. So in this original one, when Gage, the son, is killed by the truck, speeding truck. And the father, goes and holds him, and you see him screaming, and it's so impactful. And then there's a part, shortly after that, where there's a tussle between the father and the in-laws at the funeral, and they knock over the little Gage's casket, and you see his arms sort of like fall out, come out of the casket, and it's like so, like, it just, It's very. It'll put a lump in your throat for sure. It's it's very impactful, very emotional. So I found that this movie was wrought with a lot of emotional impact. So, and that's why I find that this movie gets the edge over the new version. But again, I'm going to continue with this one until I get to the new version. Again, there's the way it's directed, the special effects, and Fred Gwynne, who plays the neighbor who basically, introduces the father to the pet cemetery and its powers. I find again is very good in the role. I remember one critic reading this one critic's review, and she was like, "Oh, as if a family would move to a house that's so close to a highway," and I thought, like, what? Like, you don't get out much, do you? Like that, you could go anywhere. I mean, I could drive down any highway in the world probably and see like, oh, there's houses like everywhere near highways. Like, that's a thing, man. So yeah, and for that to be a critique of the film, I don't know. I find a lot of critics will find anything, and a lot of critics are like they're 12. And they're giving critiques on movies, and it's like, no, you gotta know what you're talking about here, and like that is not a critique of the film. That is a thing that happens in real life. So anyway, having that as a critique is rather ludicrous. The movie, again, like I said, is a very very much a horror film. Again, the effects are fantastic because they're practical, and not just because they're practical. Because I'm not an individual who would say, oh, practical effects or nothing else. I hate CG and whatever. Because yeah, there's been some amazing breakthroughs in CG effects and all that stuff, and I fully acknowledge that. But for this film, the practical effects were done very, very well. They're of the higher level practical effects stuff that you would see, not like Leprechaun or whatever type effects. So this was very good. Pascal, the individual who dies at the beginning, who through the father basically, who's a doctor at the school, treats but can't save clearly because he has massive head trauma. Well, that massive head trauma is clearly viewed, and you see that the Pascal character is very endearing as well, and he. The effects make him look almost like very zombie-like and stuff. So there is an element of the undead in this clearly, because these individuals who come back from the pet cemetery are in fact undead. They're not traditional zombies clearly, but they are undead beings. And again, one of the really interesting parts in this movie versus the new version is when Fred Gwynne, or the neighbor who basically introduces the pet cemetery to the father, recalls an actual person being resurrected from this Indian burial ground or this pet cemetery, hallowed ground or whatever, coming back. He's not the same, and he is in fact very zombie-like. It seems like he has lost all intellect and runs clearly on instinct and or the need to feed on flesh and stuff. So he's like he's definitely evil, and he's definitely not human anymore. And then the townspeople basically subsequently burned the house down with him in it and stuff, and it's a huge event that Fred Gwynne's character recalls. So you don't see that in the new movie, and I thought it was almost the part that I was looking forward to, going, oh, I wonder how they're going to handle this, and they literally omitted it completely from the new version. So the new version, here we go. I found it was very much bereft of any emotion. And that was to me a very integral part of the original. Having less emotion means just I'm not caring about the characters as much. And you will find that if you watch these movies back to back, which I suggest, I always like to, I'm not going to completely shit on a movie because I didn't like it. You might find it to be serviceable. I'm never going to tell you to not watch a movie. I know a lot of critics say don't watch it, and it's like, well, this is my opinion. I am not a guy from a studio. I like, nobody's paying me to do this. I'm giving you my editorial or my feelings, my thoughts, my opinions on these films. I do have a huge background in watching movies and things like that. Like, I'm a huge movie guy. I kind of know when movies are good and what are crap, but I'm not going to tell you not to watch it. Watch it, but understand that you might not feel the same way about this one as you did the original if you watched them back to back, or if you've watched the original at any point in your life. So, having said that, again, the emotional impact is completely missing from this movie. The choice to have again, here's a spoiler, the daughter is killed in the truck accident and comes back rather than the son, which, again, I found a completely unnecessary thing. Now, I don't know what happened in the Stephen King book. I'm not reviewing the book and how the book was turned into a film and blah, blah, blah. I'm not doing a three-way dance here. It's I'm just comparing the two movies and how they impacted me and how, my enjoyment of them. So I just thought that was rather jarring and rather unnecessary. I thought the right choice would have been the younger child to come back. Another weird thing I found about this movie is when anyone comes back into, after death, even the Pascal character, they have their eyes are one of the eyes is open more than the other, and all of them are like that, or one eye's droopier than the other, and it's just a weird thing. You'll notice it, and I noticed it. And I'm like, why is that a thing? Does that let the audience know that, oh, they've come back from the dead, so their eyes look weird? I just found that was a weird, recurring thing with the characters when they come. Even the cat, the cat has one eye sort of more closed or down more, or and the other one's more open, and I thought that's kind of weird, So anyway, I think the main thing with this one is I didn't care about the characters as much. John Lithgow was absolutely serviceable, but nothing else. I think in comparison to Fred Gwynne as the neighbor in the original, just not as good. And I mean that by like I said, the emotional impact was just not there. The father was very bland. You rarely ever got to see his wife's his in-laws, his mother-in-law and father-in-law, and their impact and why they disliked him and things. So as far as being an update or a reboot or a reimagining, I found it very unnecessary because the original really did everything you already needed. This was just it wasn't because it wasn't a reason where it's oh, well, you know what, we have new technology now, we can show the audience different things and we can update everything and it can be a completely different experience. No, you didn't need to do this one. Some movies really benefit from the fact that, we have updated special effects, we have updated ways to portray a certain thing, a mood, an effect, a power, an atmosphere, a mood, a backdrop, a location geographically, or something in space or whatever. You have technology that has sort of advanced to the point where we can show different things now. So that could be a benefit to some stories that wouldn't be able to do it justice in the past where we didn't have the technology to do that. This is not the case. And this is why, again, I find it rather superfluous that this movie exists. It didn't need to be remade. Again, in my other reviews, when I would say Fright Night was absolutely great on its own, but the updated version is equally great because they have updated elements that reflect our new daily lives, like our modern lives, and things that people would understand in a modern setting. This is what happens to these characters now in this day and age. And I thought that was so well done because they really did, advance it, in terms of like human evolution or current day, and I really appreciate it and like that. But this movie didn't need that because it didn't do that. So I think that's my I think that's my assessment of it. It just was unnecessary. It didn't need to be made. It didn't have the same emotional impact, and as a result, I just didn't like it as much. So take that for what you will. I'm so glad you guys stopped in today to watch me again. I hope you're entertained. I hope that you're a bit more informed. Again, please give this a like. Give this video a like. Please subscribe to my channel. Watch more videos. It's all free. I hope I entertain you guys. Check out my Patreon page because, again, every single day I add new art on there. And you'll be able to see this video as well. Okay, so I'm going to sign off for now, guys. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again soon. I promise. Okay, Rob signing off. Bye-bye.